This is my official playthrough and commentary on the Resident Evil 4 Chainsaw demo. We're going to jump in with a quick backstory from Leon S. Kennedy. Here we go.
September 30th, 1998. It's a day I'll never forget. The cop inside me died that day. And that night, Raccoon City was wiped out, thanks to the bioweapons created by Umbrella. Somehow I made it out, but too many others weren't so lucky. I was asked later to join a top-secret government program. Not that I had a choice. The training, punishing missions, nearly killed me. But at least I kept my mind off everything. If I could just forget what happened that night. The pain, even for a second. This time, it can be different. It has to.
So, Leon was one of the two heroes that was playable in Resident Evil 2. He was joined by Claire Redfield as well. That was the game where you were running around Raccoon City Police Department after the horrific events of the original Resident Evil. Fun fact, Resident Evil 4, which took place as a GameCube exclusive of all things, was released in 2005, did include the return of Leon Kennedy, and he kind of became one of the, if not the, faces of the franchise. So having a Leon-focused game again with this Resident Evil 4 remake or remaster, whatever you want to call it, definitely is got a lot of fans' attention because he was always a fan favorite. In this game, in the demo we're playing, this is actually very close to the beginning of the original game, although, as I've already seen, there are some differences, and I'll talk about those in a moment. This is very close to the beginning of the game where Leon is sent off to find the president's missing daughter, Ashley Graham. She has been kidnapped, or missing, I should say. I believe it's not entirely clear at the beginning. She's just not around anymore. But you track her down to this cult in Spain. And Leon's going to go in with all this awesome military training he has, and he's going to try to go rescue her. He's accompanied by two local police officers who kind of escort him to the area. They get separated very quickly, so now Leon is kind of trying to save everybody. He's trying to look for the cops that escorted him. He's also trying to, obviously, fulfill his main mission of rescuing Ashley Graham and exfilling from this very, very horrific, creepy place. If you didn't play the first game, you missed out on a lot. It was a very, very tense game experience, and it was one of the really more mature GameCube games to come out. It was in that era when GameCube was kind of dabbling with maturity, but they were still trying to figure out if they wanted to be more family-focused or not. I think now you can look at the Nintendo Switch and see it's much more mature. But at the time when Resident Evil 4 came out, you didn't really have a lot of mature type games. So this really appealed to that audience. But as to me and a lot of other people who are huge fans of the series, this was, a very different experience. It takes place as this third person, over the shoulder kind of tactical view, in which you're basically exploring this very creepy and village area. It does sprawl out into other areas as well, but you're exploring this very creepy village area, and obviously things go sideways almost immediately. And it's that typical loop of scavenging for supplies and managing gunfire and not wasting ammunition because it's not infinite, and figuring out when to fight or when to run away. So very tense environment here, and it starts off with Leon and a little bit of a jump scare, at least for me right here. I was not expecting that guy. As you notice, he is not very interested in Leon at all. He's kind of mumbling to himself, and he's talking in Spanish. It's kind of hard to hear what he's saying, but he's over here looking like he's cooking a delicious meal. I would imagine if somebody walked into my house, I would probably be like, hey, dude, what are you doing? But this guy's kind of ignoring it. Obviously, he has a bloody police badge in his laying on his floor, so he knows a little more than he's leading on. Here we get some of that sweet Leon S. Kennedy advanced combat training to fight away the baddie. And what a roundhouse kick. So hard of a roundhouse kick. The guy launched in the air and snapped his neck against the wall. So Leon is not messing around. I never said this game was completely grounded in reality. Obviously, it was zombies, but it's, you know, it's kind of funny when you think about how hard he actually kicks. So this guy is cooking this really nasty looking, like, I don't know what the hell that food is. But now I noticed very early on, I'm like, oh, I can draw my gun now. So that's going to mean something. A lot of this game requires you to kind of take your time and be slow and meticulous. And you're going to want to take in the ambiance. I'm playing it on PlayStation 5. There are 2 gameplay modes here. There is a higher fidelity mode, which pushes more of like a 4K. And I think maybe some light ray tracing. I'm not entirely sure on that. In addition to the frame rate mode, which is what you are seeing here, which runs at a locked 60 frame per second with a variable refresh rate. I'm sure the guys at Digital Foundry will get much more into what all those true specifications are, but I prefer the 60 frame per second mode. It ran insanely smooth and it looked gorgeous to me. It's still using the RE engine that we have seen on a lot of the other Resident Evil games that has worked very, very well for them. Namely the last few mainline entries. So awesome. That's great. So this looks and feels great. The third person view looks awesome. Leon is just a really cool guy to kind of hang out with. And he seems to talk a lot more in this experience than in the past. The one big thing I noticed right away, I feel like they took a cue from Dark Souls. No background music. Just the ambience of the world. When the music does kick in, something bad's about to happen. And you'll know. You'll hear it, and I'll point it out. But right now, it's just silent. You're hearing a police radio in the background. You're hearing little, you know, cricks and cratters of, like, critters and boards and woods and everything. This guy obviously didn't make it. This is one of your 2 cop escorts. There is the radio. Leon's trying to reach the other guy. Doesn't sound good for him. But now you hear the music, you hear that kind of like tense swell up. You know, that kind of horror music. It flares up. And now you hear just a little bit of music starting to come in. And the objective is now like escape the manor or something. It's not just like leave. It's like, it's very clear. They're giving you the prompt like, hey, here's how to use a gun. Because you're going to need to use it very, very soon. A little preface here as we get into some of the combat sections. Never claim to be the best at this game, but I do a serviceable job. There is a jump cut later on. It's very noticeable. I will point it out because I die. But this was the guy that we were just... you see his head is completely bent over, so that's the same guy. He actually got up. His head is completely snapped off to the side, and he has somehow been reanimated. Creepy, creepy, creepy stuff. That's really, really cool. Obviously, something's not right. I think any normal person in any situation would call and say, hey, sorry, President, you better send way more special forces because I am not doing this alone. This game does offer a light amount of stealth gameplay to it as well. You do have the crouch functionality. It's going to be very, very useful because ammo is so limited. As fun as it would be to run in and go guns blazing and just kind of go ham and shoot everybody and have fun, unfortunately, this game doesn't really want you to do that. I'm sure when you beat the game, as with other game modes, you'll get an item. Usually it's like a bandana or something that gives you unlimited ammo. But in the original playthrough, it's going to be tense and it's going to require a lot of stealth. So Leon's going to be able to sneak around and do backstabs and to hurt enemies. You'll see he has the opportunity to do roundhouse kicks or punches. It appears to me that combat and killing every single enemy is not required. I didn't know that walking through here. I could have totally skipped this guy and probably the other guy if I was smart and just snuck out. I thought I needed a key or something to go back out through the locked door that I entered in, but it turns out I'm going a totally separate way. So both of these encounters are purely optional. The game does have a points system associated with it. You will get points and kind of like an arcade mode score attack, kind of to give you a status. A lot of enemies will drop gold pieces that are utilized to buy things from the merchant in the game. However, again, a lot of that's optional. I'm sure a minimalist or a speedrunner would just blow through all of this because it is purely optional. But it does add to the ambience to explore and look around. Sometimes you'll find different things, whether it be herbs or guns or ammunition or different weapon types to kind of help you out. So you got to kind of take that with a grain of salt. Exploration may yield more gear. It also may yield more enemies too. So Leon is clearly safe because we put the deadbolt in the door. You know how that works. Deadbolts in the door always means you're safe. And here's a map, very clear that something's going wrong. And we see one of the first major changes between the base Resident Evil 4 game and the remake. Leon now has support. So he's going to call in and we'll listen to Hunnigan for a moment.
President's daughter, Baby Eagle. It's likely she's in this village.
Our intel was correct then. Well done.
Need a location on a nearby lake. She may have been taken there.
Copy that. I'll see what I can find.
Hurry up. Something's happened to the people here. My escorts are... Gotta go. Talk later. I'll let myself out.
Obviously, the conversation gets a little cut short. Thankfully, these enemies are just going to kind of hang out. They look a lot more humanoid. Some of the enemies definitely have a much more like death look to them. Yellow eyes, a lot of blood on their bodies, very ragged features. That group of dudes actually looked relatively normal. It's cool that they have kind of gone back, and that's what leads me to kind of the second part of this video is the kind of the changes between the original and the remake. They didn't just do a shot-for-shot scene. They didn't just up-res everything. It's got a slew of new overlays, the inventory management, the crafting menu, the map, the like the lore tab that kind of lets you go through and see everything. All very, very different and modernized for what we would expect today, which is great. Leon now is in contact with Ingrid Hunnigan, who is going to kind of, I think, be some Overwatch. I'm not really entirely sure what her role is going to be quite yet. And as you kind of go through the game, you'll find the story beats are the same. Reading through some of the interviews with the team that worked on the original Resident Evil 4 and then kind of modernized it, they said that they want to keep kind of they're doing a reimagining of the storyline, but they want to keep its essence of direction. That was a key tenet for the team. Obviously, modernization of graphics and controls into kind of what we'd expect to be as, acceptable by today's standards. This is a tall task. Resident Evil 4 is arguably the most popular Resident Evil game of the series, and it has definitely withstood the test of time considering it came out 18 years ago. Like, it's been a long time. We are starting to enter a world where we're seeing a lot of remakes again. We are starting to see, games that were old are being totally redone and brought back. So this is kind of Capcom's continuation. We saw them do this with Resident Evil 2 and 3 already, both of which were just absolutely amazing. So Resident Evil 4 was on everybody's radar, and this seems to be kind of the culmination of some of those awesome effects and lighting effects and techniques and sound effects and design and everything that they have all kind of pieced together, which is really, really good. So I'm very, very excited for this. Some other things that are included, little quality of life stuff. Leon can now carry multiple knives instead of just one because there is actually knife durability in this game. There are development teams that focused on each of the individual areas. As I said, the village is the first one. There are other ones that are later on in the game. And that, a lot of attention to detail has been done in facial features and Leon's reactions to the world. You'll hear him quite a bit comment on things, and he'll say things, and he'll make little quips and try to be witty and talk to you and let you know that, like, hey, there's something's amiss, or he'll be talking a lot. I didn't see this guy. I gotta admit, I did not see. If he was there, I didn't notice. I get speared because I'm a big dummy. But you could see guys are punishing in this game. It's not just a single headshot to drop somebody. I mean, these guys are definitely infected or something is going on. You obviously have to figure out what it is. You do have a knife for melee. Again, it does have limited durability, so you can't just go ham. Not that you would really want to anyway. But as with a lot of enemies, if you do knock them down or hit them with environmental damage, you can thankfully finish them off with a knife kill. Again, it's all about saving ammo because you're going to need it. It's going to be your front line of defense. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to use it infinitely, but it's going to help to kind of whittle out and push back some of the initial set of enemies. And you will find waves of enemies that do appear in this game. That's actually how this demo ends, with just being against insurmountable odds. But this happens multiple times in the game, where it is much more action-oriented than a lot of the other Resident Evil games. And I think they always had a difficult time, and not a bad time. I think they did very well with it, but I think the development was always struggling with how to keep those tense, jump scare, oh my god moments in combination with these violent, frantic combat movement, and trying to keep the game not just a straight run and gun, but also not just, you know, the other way either. I really tried to sneak up on this guy. It didn't work out. Thankfully, I could get a couple shots on him through the window, which is kind of funny. But as you could see there, sometimes there'll be like a little carrot over their head, and that's when they're like staggered. You can run up and do a roundhouse kick to them. You'll see me miss that prompt many, many times in this game. But if you're being like a true ammo purist, you can absolutely utilize that to save even more ammunition. Exploration is definitely something that is encouraged as you go around and scavenge for different pieces of gear. As I said, there's a weapon wheel that's included. You'll see some of the weapon slots you're going to get. You're going to have quite an arsenal as you kind of work your way through this game, which is really, really cool as well. You know, I gotta say that I'm really excited for this game because I'm a huge Resident Evil fan. I think a lot of people are, and I'm really curious to see how much story beats there are. Definitely on the later part of the game, there's some really cool villains that arise. Yes, that was a head that fell off the door. There are some really cool villains that arise, and there's some dialogue in there that I feel could have been fleshed out better, so I'm hoping we get to see that. I'm hoping they take a little bit more time to walk through that. So here's the first part where, you know, Leon walks up. You're going to pull out your binoculars, and you're going to realize, if you didn't already, something's really wrong. They're actually sacrificing. There's the other cop hanging on that cross there, and this villager is going to go over and just light him up. Leon doesn't like that, and here's my jump cut, because I did all this before and I died, so I did it again and I actually beat it the second time. This area is full of enemies. I don't even know how many there are. I am sure you can watch YouTube videos of people who are much better than me running around and navigating and destroying all of these enemies. I do remember in the original Resident Evil 4 game, there was kind of the survival mode that took place in this area. It was just a giant sandbox of various traps and ladders and explosions and stuff to try to whittle out the enemy forces. I don't remember much of them. I actually triggered one off kind of accidentally, which is kind of funny. You'll see here in a little bit. But the idea is that, you know, you can't stealth and pick everybody off. You're going to actively have to, at some point, engage the enemy, and it's just going to be just a straight out, you know, bloodbath. A lot of these buildings you can go in, there are multiple stories. Sometimes you can jump in through the window, or you can, you know, climb to the second story and jump out through a window. You can come in through the door. You can sneak around. There's crawl spaces. There's little natural choke points and crevices and stuff to navigate through. So if you were smart enough and laid out your kind of, you know, battle plan, you probably could have done a lot better than I did. I did survive, though. I mean, I wouldn't say I'd give myself an A or anything, but I did get through it all. And, you know, a lot of the enemies are distracted at times, but they do hear sound effects, which is something that's really, really cool. So I was trying to figure out how to jump through this window. I knew that I could. You know, I tried to knife it. Could I open it? And then I finally got the prompt. When I break open that glass, everybody's like, what was that? And the whole village comes over to look. I don't know what was in that door. I never got the key for it. But here we go, indeed. We'll just see how many enemies I can swing through and fight before, you know, I just have to basically escape. Because I will get overrun very, very quickly. If an enemy gets too close, it does give you a prompt to use your weapon to fight. You know, to kind of break through and escape. Unfortunately, my knife is not working very well right now because, I use so much durability on it. So I am just trying to use kicks and shots, and I realize that they're pouring in behind me too, probably down from the staircase and coming in through the window. And you'll see as I just decide to basically take a first aid and just run away, just how many enemies start to appear. As with the other Resident Evil games, crafting is a big part of it. Inventory management's a big part of it. Here I'm going to craft the green and the red herb together to make a mixed herb. And then I'm going to take that as like a potion to give myself some more health, which is great. You see my knife is broken in half. Unfortunately, it doesn't work anymore. I don't have a whole lot of ammo. There's chickens running around. You can kill the chickens to get eggs. I assume you can eat the eggs. I don't know. I didn't really experiment with that too much. By my count, I think we've encountered 7 enemies. And when you turn the corner, there will be even more. But you can see all of the different places you can run through. You can see all of the different environments. There's crates scattered everywhere to find different pieces of gear. The music is flaring up. Trying to run back to the left and to the right, trying to break free. And thankfully, the break free animation does push enemies away from you, which is great. It kind of buys you a little bit more time. And trying to isolate enemies one-on-one to get a couple shots off. Trying to get some ammo is what I'm really trying to do, but unfortunately don't have any. Don't have any luck really finding any more bullets. And this is where it starts to get really intense. This was kind of the opening scene of the first game. So that all that stuff you saw before kind of sneaking through, there was a little bit of that in the first game, but this was kind of the big moment. And then, of course, the titular name of the demo being Chainsaw. There's this dude with his eyes really kind of eerily far apart with a bag on his head, and you could just see the waves of enemies coming at me as my bullets whittle down. I do have a grenade, which I'll throw here in a moment. This game does kind of seem to want you to funnel enemies into natural choke points. I'm going to take this grenade and throw it, and my plan is to kill like 10 of them. I think I got 2, maybe. But there you can hear Leon making a little quip. And that's kind of some of the fun, is he will comment often. You can hear him exclaim, "Oh my gosh," or shoot, or sorry, or trying to be a little witty guy. This is awesome. This looks so good. Playing it and watching it are two very, very different things. I was playing it with my headphones, so like music's pounding through your ears, and you're running around trying to figure out where the best place to go is. And there's these kind of triggers I feel like you have to activate. I don't know if the triggers were based entirely on specific places you were or time that you were at, but as you will find some little triggers that do kind of accelerate the demo and get you to that end cutscene, so to speak. Something I should mention as well, and this was something that I don't remember being in the other Resident Evil games, but something that was absolutely here, was here's the cow real quick. I don't know what I did. I saw a lantern hanging on a rope and I just ran through it. That barn lit on fire. I guess if I had been smarter about funneling enemies through, I most likely could have gotten more of them than I did. But what I was saying was enemies do actively hit each other. So you saw earlier Chainsaw Guy cleaved his buddy. They will hurt each other, so they're not just like clipping through each other, which again ties into, I think, some of the funneling system of kind of making sure that you're channeling enemies in certain like shot routes, using a grenade to get a bunch of them, or if I had pulled a bunch of them into the barn at once or whatever, that would have helped. As with some of the other parts of just general survival games, barricading your surroundings actively helps and lets you stay alive longer. By pushing that bookcase in front of that window, the enemy wouldn't be able to jump through as quickly. Buys me a little more time to loot through here. You can see the guy chainsawing through the door, and thankfully one of Old Faithful upstairs here, a good shotgun for us. We're going to load that. There's weapon case and cases nearby that I pretty much missed. There's a ladder out the window that looks like it could be a potential escape route. Chainsaw Guy's coming in, and music is flaring up, and I'm just shooting because this is the end. Backs to the door, and I'm just, okay, I'm going to jump out, and look what happens. Pretty cool. the bell tolls, and everybody instantly stops, and they're just obsessed with going inside this church. And they just all go in. They just walk away, drop their weapons, and just kind of give up on Leon. And that's kind of what, you know, symbolizes, I think, this is a messed up cult. Obviously, these guys are nuts anyway. I mean, I don't know how many times you really need to, like, hey, this isn't right. But seeing the fact that, you know, they're just actively walking by Leon. They're not just walking around him. You could see the corpses in the background of the enemies I've killed. You could see just the wreckage that was in this village. And they all just very slowly walk into the church. And this last guy, you know, very nicely turns around and, you know, no more visitors, and closes the door in your face. And Leon's like, what the hell just happened? And that's how the demo ends. That's definitely, I think, a great way to kind of get you into the mood. It gives a little one-liner here.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
And fade to black. So I'm very excited for this game. And I just wanted to show it off. I will definitely be checking it out when it comes out. I know what happens in the story, but the ambiance, the graphics, the gameplay, the tension, everything just really was something special. Hope you guys enjoyed this video and my playthrough of the Resident Evil 4 remake. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care of yourselves. And until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.